Alright, could you please say your name and where you're from, both city and country?
I am David Chadwick. I am originally from Chatham, Ontario, Canada.
Are you a student? And if not, do you have a job?
I am a student, yes.
How long have you been a student?
I've been a student for ever since, I don't know, 20 years?
Hmm.
Sounds odd saying it like that.
So what university are you at right now?
I'm at the University of New Hampshire studying for a Master's of Business.
Why did you come to the United States?
I came to the United States with my parents back in 1990. My father got a promotion, so we moved to Michigan.
So, did anything initially shock you about American culture when you first got there, or were you too young?
I was definitely too young to necessarily notice much of the difference. However, having moved around a lot, I am aware of a lot of the differences between the culture of different American states as well as Canada.
So how many states have you lived in?
I have lived in 4 American states, and in addition to the one in Canada.
Did you have any problems fitting in or feeling accepted because you were born in Canada, in American high school or college?
Not necessarily a problem. One of the benefits of, I guess, being Canadian is a lot of the Canadians are pretty much indistinguishable from Americans. You see that a lot with actors and comedians, where half of them are actually Canadian and nobody even knows until they look it up. So I didn't really experience any kind of prejudice or anything like that. Most people just didn't even know.
So did you experience any kind of professional, discrimination where you were denied a position because you were a dual citizen or anything like that?
No, I was not. Whenever anybody had asked about employment, since I'm a permanent U.S. citizen as well, I'd always just go with that, because usually when you, on the other side of being a dual citizen, if you apply for a job in the United States and you show up and give them your Canadian passport to explain that's your form of identification, that adds a lot of extra paperwork that they now have to go through. So I guess it will complicate the process, but I don't think it will dissuade people from employing it.
So how did the dual citizenship work with being both Canadian and an American? How does that work?
So being dual citizen basically means that I have additional options available to me. So whenever I'm traveling, I'm able to declare whichever passport I want to use. So I recently went to China, and I traveled there on my American passport. However, I was doing that mainly because I need to have a visa to go to China, whichever passport I needed. Whereas if I traveled on my Canadian passport to certain other countries, most of the British Commonwealth countries, I don't need a visa, whereas a lot of the countries you would need one as an American. So I can go to Australia without a travel visa, New Zealand, I think South Africa, and the UK. So there's definitely a benefit there. There's also a benefit just by having the option available that if I do run into a problem abroad, I have 2 embassies that I can go to who will help me sort problems out, even if I go there on a different passport.
So do you miss anything about Canada? Anything in particular that you might remember or even have heard about?
Honestly, the thing I missed most about Canada was the skiing. We would travel up there from when we were living in New York and then into living in New Hampshire. We would always take trips up to a bit more north of Montreal, and we go for the skiing up there. And they have a lot of really great skiing mountains up there. But a lot of those are still available pretty much everywhere you go now. But it's just definitely an interesting
So, do you plan on staying in the United States?
For the time being, yes. I am exploring options of potentially getting a job either in Canada or in Britain, mainly because they're still both English-speaking countries, so there's not going to be much barrier to entry, as well as since I've spent about 20, almost 25 years in the United States, pretty much exclusively, I'm kind of up for traveling to other places. So I could definitely see myself going back to Canada eventually.
All right. So, do you have any final thoughts about dual citizenship, America, Canada, cultural differences?
About dual citizenship, a lot of people are a little confused about what that really means. Dual citizenship doesn't mean that I don't pay tax in both countries. I only pay tax where I'm living. Also, there's a very common question about if you start to work for the government, do you have to give up your other passport or renounce your citizenship if you go and join the military? And at least for the United States, and I'm pretty sure Canada as well, that is not the case unless you are, I think, working for the White House. A lot of times what you can do is you can rescind your passport and your citizenship while you are employed with that employer. So if you have to get a security clearance, which is very high level within a specific country like the United States, Canada, any of these countries, they will ask that, basically they require you have to be a citizen of the United States. And if you have another citizenship, you need to just put that on the back burner and only travel as an American. So that's one kind of side to being a dual citizen, is that that's a choice that basically has to be made. If you're going for that kind of a position, you have to put that side of you on hold for a while. But it does present additional benefits just being a dual citizen in general, because, like I mentioned before about traveling abroad, depending on which country you're going to, they're a bit more receptive to either country. So if you're going to European countries, either passport will do fine. If you're going to, say, South American countries, I think Canadians are treated a little bit better than Americans down there. There's a lot of prejudice between the countries, but I also get to skip the embargo on Cuba as I fly out of Canada.
Oh, that's cool.
Which Americans can't necessarily do.
So have you been to Cuba?
Not legally. I have not, no. Oh. I don't necessarily have a reason to go to Cuba. So I have more of the American reason for not going. There's not really anything for me to do there.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks, David.